we want to bend the device continuously. So this is very fantastic applications of the supercapacitors. And they can be designed in various different forms. So as I said, it starts from the sandwich type, interdigitated cable type, depending on the requirements and depending on the level of applications. So far, we in our group we have developed several range of materials. We filed so many patents on this, and we also published a lot of research articles, which has already been published, and people read that articles, and we are progressing very nicely along this line. We also have one local industry. They are very much interested in that. We are actually cooperating with them so that we can actually take this technology to the market. So after this, maybe I will introduce a very interesting and very impressive, and this is very close to my heart. This is very interesting technology which we are developing, the self-powered electronic devices. I have a question for you. Do you think that in the future can we use the electronic devices without batteries? We have mobiles. Do you think that mobile will work without batteries? Would it be possible? For example, let's take an example. There are so many remote places, or there are so many places where we don't have the chargers, where, for example, we can't charge a mobile. We don't have a source from where we can use the electricity, and then we can use the, like charge any kind of electronic device. So taking this in mind, we started to think, like, would it be possible to develop kind of self-powered electronic devices? Or, for example, is there any way that we can charge battery at a remote places without any electricity? And that was our first try. And how this idea came into our mind is because of this all wearable and healthcare devices. So you can see we have this tracker, activity tracker, and there are smart watches, smart belts, and there are so many smart clothes. So this is the great technology. We are developing it very fast. And that's how we thought, would it be possible to use this some other resources from where we can extract energy instead of using the electricity coming from the hydropower station? Or would it be possible to develop some kind of self-powered wearables or healthcare devices? And that's how we started to think about, okay, so what we are doing now. For example, you can see these are a lot of medical implantable devices. So they are like, for the most commonly used or most known is a pacemaker. So what pacemaker does is, pacemaker is implanted inside normally around the lungs, and then that pacemaker keeps passing the pulse to heart. Okay, so because this pacemaker is inside the body, this pacemaker works on the battery. So this pacemaker have a very small microwatt size battery. But what happened, for example, after 5 years, the battery, or after 6-7 years, the battery is going to drain off. And there is no way we can charge a battery. What the person has to do, the person has to undergo again a surgery. Then they have to take that pacemaker out, replace the battery, replace the pacemaker, do whatever you want. And then then you can just put the everything electronic things back. So what will happen? For example, this patient has to go under this very complicated surgery. There is a huge money, and then there is again safety. That is one of the very important factor. So is there any way that we don't need to replace the battery into the pacemaker? Is there any way that we can recharge the pacemaker inside the body? Of course, there are some new devices from what we can do is we can from externally, like magnetic field or that kind of things are generating, and that can charge the battery, but that is not safe. The reason is because they can harm the tissues, and then it's not really very much safe. And that's how we started to think about, okay, so how we can solve this problem, because all these medical devices, they need a very small, tiny battery. There is another thing which you can notice on this slide is the power needs. The power requirement for these devices is really very small. It's just 1 microwatt or 1 microwatt to 100 milliwatts, or the voltage range is 1 millivolts to 10 millivolts. So the requirements are really very less. So we started to think about, okay, so is there any way that we can solve this problem? Because we also gone through a different kind of stopwatch and then smoke detector and then motion detector and then your mobile. You can see your smartphone, the maximum power required for your smartphone is around 1 watt. And that is the problem. This state of the power source, of course, the battery is progressing very fast. We are reducing the size of battery, but still what we need to do is we have to recharge the battery. That is one of the obstacles we have, and the battery life for the battery is still limited. 5 years is really not really very high if we consider this kind of very complicated surgeries and very complicated and the cost. So we started to think about, okay, so is there any way that we can develop a new kind of energy conversion and energy storage system that can revolutionize this wearable and medical implantable devices? So what we need is we need to find a power source, and that power source needs to, it has to be availability of source, so irrespective of time. For example, if you take an example, solar. If I want to use the solar power, we have to have the sun there. If I want to use the wind power station, we have to have a wind, right? But irrespective of a time, we need to have such an energy source from irrespective of time. We need to have that. We need to have that source anytime available for us. The second requirement for this energy source should be efficient and generate sufficient amount of energy. That is, of course, and easy to harvest. So it shouldn't need a very complicated technology to harvest or to convert the energy. So do you think that do we have such kind of energy source around us? And this is how we come into we came into this new idea. Like our human body itself is a very rich source of energy. For example, you can see that our daily body motions, for example, arm motion or blood pressure or knee motion or step motion, finger motion, any kind of human body motion, they can generate a huge amount of energy. For you can see the step motion can generate 67 watts of energy. Knee motion can generate 36 watts of energy, right? And if, for example, if we could harvest only 5% of energy from our body motions, we don't need a battery, right? We can use this extracted energy to run these electronic devices, and that's what we thought. Okay, so now we know the solution, we have the solution, but how we are going to do that? So you can just keep some numbers in your mind, and I can show you, and you can go back and then you can imagine that how much energy our body is generating. And then when we started to think about, like, okay, so we have the power, we have the energy source, but how we are going to extract the energy, and then we started to look around the literature, and that's what we come across, this piezoelectric effect. We already know that there is a piezoelectric materials in the nature. That materials can convert any kind of vibrations or force into the electricity, and this is the best example is the lighter. So you can see this lighter, it has a very small piezoelectric element here, and that when we push it, that piezoelectric element generates a very small spark here, and at the same time we have the gas, and that gas ignites. And this was the phenomenon introduced in 1880 by Pierre Curie and Jacques Curie, and that's what we thought, okay, why not to use this kind of piezoelectric materials to convert the human body motions into the electricity, and why not to use this generated electricity for wearables or medical implantable devices. And that's what the idea I proposed in 2018, that if we could convert a human breathing vibrations, for example, if I'm inhaling and exhaling, so when I inhale, there is a vibrations, and that vibrations could be converted into the electricity, and that converted electricity can be passed to the pacemakers, and that was the concept. So we started to work on that. We started to work, okay, so now we know how much energy can be generated, and I intentionally put this slide here again. The reason is because you can still go back and see, okay, so maximum energy our smartphone needs is 1 watt, and as I already mentioned, like human body motion, for example, the step motion can generate 67 watts of energy. It's a huge amount of energy can be generated with a step motion or arm motion or hip motion. And that's how we started to think about it. And then one of the problem we were facing with this piezoelectrics is, for example, the output wasn't constant. So all the times, because our vibrations, human body vibrations, they are irregular, they are not a constant all the times. So we were generating the output power generated from the human body motions by using the piezoelectric material. It was variable. So that's why this varying voltage or varying electricity cannot be connected to any kind of electronic devices. And that's the reason what we thought is why not to store it somewhere and then use it. And that's how we started to think about piezoelectric supercapacitors. So what we have done is we have modified the supercapacitor. So initially supercapacitor was 2 plates, carbon plates with 1 paper separator. Instead of what we have done, we took that paper separator out and we put the piezoelectric film in between. So piezoelectric film works as a separator, but at the same time, piezoelectric film works as an energy harvester. So on this supercapacitor, if we apply a pressure, that piezoelectric film automatically converts the pressure into the electricity, and that electricity is stored at the supercapacitive electrodes. And that's what the project I got in 2018. As my future fellowship, I received around $725,000 $100,000 from Australian Research Council to develop this technology. We tried and we developed this one. So you can see this is very simple demonstration. So we have developed this device. So here what we have is this aluminum foil, and in between there is a piezoelectric material. And you can see that very simple touch can generate a very nice amount of energy. So on the oscilloscope, you can clearly see there is always the vibration. And if we could see something here on the screen, so it is already generating almost 18 to 20 volts of volts. In this case, gentle touch was generating 10 volts, and that 10 volts is more than enough for any kind of electronic device to operate. So we have successfully developed this new technology where we are converting the piezoelectrics and we are converting the human body motions into the electricity, and we are storing them, and we have already started to do some tests so that we can connect them, so we can develop some self-powered devices. So you can see that this can have a very large amount of applications. So you can, a very simple touch can generate a huge amount of energy, which can be used to operate the sensors, calculators, digital clock, or any kind of small portable devices, because the power requirements are really very small, and human body is a very rich source of electricity, or very rich source of energy. You can see the smart floor. So these floors can also be used as a wireless transmitters, as well as this can be used as a, for example, alarming system. For example, if it is on the, in front of the home. So if someone who doesn't know, like, can go onto this floor, and then this can trigger an alarm. So this is a smart floor. So this is one of the video. This is not from our group, but I like this video, and I always like to show this video. What is the dream technology? How we are going to use these piezoelectric supercapacitors in the future? So you can see this is the person. So yes, there is a technology which has already started to develop. So if we can have these piezoelectric supercapacitors on the stairs or somewhere here, so these motions are continuously generating electricity. This is the pressure. Because of that pressure, the battery keeps charging, and you can charge your mobile wherever and whenever you want. So this is the technology which we are dreaming to develop in the future. We recently got a grant, industry engagement grant from Center for Biotechnology, from where this is very nice project proposal we have developed. So human body is a source of protein. So we also, in our body, we have a collagen. Collagen is very healing protein, and it is available in all kind of plants, animals, and everywhere. So, and collagen itself have a piezoelectric properties. So our plan is to use the protein into the supercapacitors, piezo supercapacitors. So in human body, we don't need to add any other kind of piezoelectric material. So human body, the collagen into the human body itself has a piezoelectric properties. So this is one of the technology we are hoping to develop. Okay, so this is all about the supercapacitors, what we are developing. So I will go quickly through this battery technology, what research we are aiming at our university. So Of course, the battery technology is evolving so fast. We started in 1859. We were using lead acid batteries. We are still using lead acid batteries. And you can see these numbers 30, 50, 80, 250, 350, and 1000. So this is how this battery technology is growing. And we should thank all these legends who received a Nobel Prize in 2020 for the development of a lithium-ion battery technology. Professor John B. Goodenough, he is 99 years old. And the person, when he got a Nobel Prize, he was 96 years old. So he's one of the great scientists who has developed this technology. And the first lithium-ion battery came into the market in 1990s. So this is, you will understand what is the difference between the supercapacitors and lithium-ion batteries. So in lithium-ion batteries, what we have is we will have two electrodes again, but in here these electrodes, sorry. Okay, there is some problem with this video, but anyways, so what we have is we have an anode here, we have a cathode. So what happens is while charging the battery, this lithium moves from cathode to anode. So this is how battery is charged, and then when battery start to discharge, the lithiums from this electrode starts to flow in this direction. So it goes back from anode to cathode, and this is how the lithium-ion battery works. So if you remember the supercapacitor, what happened is charge is stored on the surface. And in the lithium-ion battery, charge is intercalated, or it diffuses into the structure, and that is the reason lithium-ion batteries has high power, but high energy but low power. So let me tell you, if you remember, there was an incident about this Samsung Note. It was exploded. The reason, nobody knows the reason. Everybody was blaming this manufacturing fault and everything, whatever. So as a scientist, we started to discover, okay, what was the problem? Why any battery explode? You need to remember, you need to take care of the batteries. The reason is because the battery can explode at any point. Battery can generate explosion, which is almost equal to 1 hand grenade. So need to be really very careful. Anyways, so as a scientist, we were interested in looking at the atomic scale. So what is happening? Everybody have a mobile. Everybody have the battery. So battery keep discharging whole day, but we don't know exactly what is mean by discharging a battery. What is actually happening inside the battery? And that is why that's what we wanted to explore. So you can see here, this is an anode, a carbon, and this is a cathode. So another suggestion I would give to everyone is never discharge your battery to zero. Never discharge your mobile to zero. Whenever your mobile, whenever there is only 20% battery, your mobile or any of your device, it will tell you, there will be a red light, and that the device will tell you that to recharge your mobile or recharge the battery. That is really very important. The reason is because if we discharge the battery completely, this yellow spike starts to grow on the electrode. And after some time, what happens is this yellow and this green spikes, they grow so much that they break the electrode, they break the separator, and they go towards the cathode. And this is what we call as a thermal runaway. So at this point, there is a battery, cathode and anode, they get short, and then this is the point where the battery can explode, or battery can get a fire. Okay. So we wanted to see what is happening inside the material. So that is the reason we have developed a new in situ transmission electron microscopy. So this is the technique. What is same like a scanning electron microscope. So this is again a photography or recording. So we do it at a very high Mach. So we have developed this electrode. So what we are actually doing, we assemble a battery inside the instrument. So this is how we were assembling a battery. So our electrode was here, material, and we were putting a lithium here, and then this electrode moves towards this point, and then externally we were charging it so that we can see what exactly happening with the material. Let me show you the video, and then you will understand what exactly happens with the material. So this is just kind of any material you can imagine. So we have tested this material for batteries. It's working very good, very nice, stable. We charge and discharge it for 600 times. It is very nicely working, and we wanted to see what is happening with the material. So you can see this W is tungsten, this is electrode, this is our material. And what happened is when we start to charge a battery, first the size of this increases from 130 nanometer to 133 nanometer. And then when we discharge again, it goes back to 122 nanometers. Let me show you on video. So here you will see that how this material changes the shape. So you can see this is started to expand. So this is the material. This is what is happening with the material inside the battery. So at the nanoscale, we can clearly see that what happens when we charge or discharge the battery. Now we are discharging the battery. So once we start to discharge, it starts to contract. So this is what happening with the material. So if we discharge the battery too much, then it is going to damage the material. So we should never discharge the battery to zero. Okay, so we also test a similar kind of properties for another material, which is potassium niobate. I like this material a lot, and we wanted to see the similar structure, what is happening with the material, and then we found the similar results. You can see that there is something moving like a waves. So what is happening is now battery is charging, and then this is what we call as a potassium intercalation or insertion, and then what we did is like we did a discharging as well, and we saw the change in the materials. So sometimes, and from engineering point of view, we will say, come on, what you people are doing, this is not really very much interesting. Who cares what is happening inside the battery? But yes, we do care, because this kind of analysis will give us a better idea, better understanding, so that we can develop a new kind of materials. So not only the basic fundamental analysis, we also develop these proper batteries in the lab. So you can see we have already developed these various forms of battery. This is a pouch cell, and we tested these batteries into the lab. So this is one of the world's super TM we have recently installed. So this is the machine which we are using to see what is happening with the materials when the batteries are discharging or charging. So this is something interesting I would like to share with you, that we never thought it about what we should do with this kind of things. If you are engineers, you people should think about the manufacturing is there. Manufacturing is too much, but we don't have a strategies. We don't have infrastructure. We don't have a plans for recycling. We should start to think about what we are going to do. How we are going to recycle all these mobile phones. There are too many mobile phones are in India or even in Australia. Also, there are too many mobile phones. After 2 to 3 years, they are dead. There are so many electronic equipments. What we should do with that? The plastics. We have a lot of plastic. We have so much agricultural waste. We also have a medical waste. This kind of medical waste. Whenever you use something, think about it, like where this waste is going or what is happening with this waste. Tires. There's too many tires are out shopping. We buy so many things online. And then what we do is we got these curtains and this cardboards and everything. What we do with the cardboards? We never care about these cardboards. What we do is we just take the things, whatever we have on cardboards, we just throw it. But what happens with that? What people are doing with the cardboards? And same with the fruit waste. Okay, there is huge amount of fruit waste. What is happening? This is actually $1 billion industry, and nobody even thinking about, okay, what should we do with this kind of waste? So this is not actually the waste. This is an opportunity to develop something new. And that's how we started some very funny, very stupid experiment when I was in Spain, in Barcelona. So Spain is very much famous for the production of almonds, and there was banana peels, orange peels. I got an idea. I thought, why not to use these materials why not to use this waste to prepare some kind of carbon? I wasn't sure about like what kind of carbon. So what we have done is, I just followed the papers, and what I did is like I converted everything, like mostly this is the almond shells. So almond shells into kind of carbon. So the first image is the photograph of almond shell, how it looks like an atomic scale, like under the microscopy. Then what I did is like I follow a paper, and following a paper, what I did is like I just activated that material. I used a very simple potassium hydroxide. I just took two powders, mix them, crush them together, and simply carbonize them into inert atmosphere, into nitrogen or argon. Because if we burn these into the oxygen, it will only generate the carbon dioxide and ash. So I don't want it to generate carbon dioxide. I wanted to develop a carbon. Nothing new. There is nothing new. But what I realized when I started to took an images, you can see something very nice. This sheet-like structure or flower-like structure is coming out. This flower-like structure is nothing but a graphene. this is how graphene looks like under the microscopy. And this was an invention that we can develop a graphene from waste. And that was an innovation. So this was the first time. So I went back, I checked the papers, and I realized this process is already there from 1980s, even before my birth. But nobody got this kind of structure, because I think on that time people doesn't know about this graphene, because graphene was invented in 2010 and nobody cares about this kind of structure. And then we realized, okay, so there is some opportunity. And my supervisor, Spanish supervisor Pedro, he told me, okay, let's separate them. But I wasn't happy with his suggestion. What I wanted to do is I wanted to convert everything into the 100% carbon, 100% graphene-like material. And then I did almost 1 month, almost 1.5 months, including Saturday and Sunday, 1 month complete experiments, changing everything, temperature, time, processing, everything. I changed all parameters. And after a month, I developed a recipe, develop a protocol, like a procedure by which we can convert any kind of material into a graphene-like material. And that's how the graphene looks like under the microscope. So these are just photographs of a graphene at nanoscale. And then we apply our recipe for all kind of walnut shells, banana peels, and orange peels. Then I was in South Australia, in Adelaide. They have a lot of wineries. So we have used our procedure protocol to convert this kind of winery waste into a different kind of carbon materials. And you will not believe, we developed a full battery out of a winery waste. So we converted same waste. We use 2 strategies. We convert this waste into 2 different forms of carbon material. One form of carbon material, which is hard carbon, can be used as an anode, and this activated carbon can be used as a cathode material. And the whole battery we made from the winery waste. Now, actually, we are in the process to transfer this technology to industry. So local industry, Spark Technologies, they are working with us to develop these batteries in Australia. So that is fantastic, because we are not using any kind of raw material. So everything is waste. So there is huge opportunity. You people should think about, okay, so in India, we have several waste, several things, and we need to find a solution. Positive solution will get you a business. We filed a patent, and it is now in the process. We are licensing it now. We also tried this for the textile waste. We got a project, so we tried to convert the textile waste into a carbon materials, and we built a whole battery from the textile waste. This was a really very great innovation, because in India, in Maharashtra itself, we have a lot of cotton or textile industry. We have a big industry, and there is a large amount of waste is going out from the textile. So yeah, we did these in situ things, and what we did is like we also wanted to see what is happening with the material, and we actually explore this a lot. But what is interesting, I wanted to show you is like we demonstrated the technologies. So you can see these all batteries, they are made of the textile waste. And what we have done is in the exhibition, we demonstrated that the batteries can light up this LED, and we made a very small presentation of the concept and the team. So this was from QUT, and the concept, or our concept, was to converting the textile waste into the batteries. So for sustainable and circular economy approach, this was the conceptual framework, like how we are going to do that. And then this was the team. So I was leading a team, and then we have our partners from QUT. So we could actually make batteries, and we could run some kind of LEDs or some kind of LCD screen by using these textile waste batteries. We also got a lot of media coverage. So Brisbane Science Times, they covered our news. Then one of our chief entrepreneur, Lian Kim, she invited me for presenting our work in 78th International Cotton Advisory Committee's meeting. Almost 80 countries, they participated in this meeting, and they love this innovation. We were on the Twitter, and everywhere we got a lot of attention. Why I am showing this to you? The reason is because after this news, we got almost 15 to 20 types of different samples from the different industries, local industries, and they wanted to find a solution that what they can do with the waste, the textile waste they are generating from their companies. And now we are researching on this, like, because all these textiles, they have a different composition. Some comes with the polyester, some nylon, some PET microfibers. So we have to work on these things, like we have to see the composition, we have to see like how we can convert these materials into useful materials. One of our PhD student, she is trying to convert rice husk. I don't know how many of you know that rice husk contains a large amount of silica. And recent Tesla car, Elon Musk, so he's working with the battery company, and that battery company, they are developing a silicon anodes for lithium-ion battery. The reason to use a silicon into the batteries is silicon has a very high capacity, and that's the reason they want to use a silicon. So one of our PhD student, what she is doing is she is trying to convert a rice husk into a silicon, and we did it. We have already converted all this rice husk into a silicon carbon, and we are already making a batteries out of it. So the yield is excellent. She has developed a very nice process, and that process can convert anything into all this rice husk into a kind of silicon. This is the new research we are doing. I'm just about to end my presentation, and this is one of the technology. I would love to show you this to you, because we are recently working with the Hyundai Motors from South Korea, and we got this project with the South Korea. So what we are doing is, this is one of the interesting thing we never thought it about. For example, these countries like Germany or South Korea or Russia, where the temperature goes in minus or in zero. So what happens is, like in that countries, they need heaters inside the car to warm the car, to keep the car to keep a car from the inside. So initially we were using a gasoline engines, petrol cars or diesel cars. So what happens with this kind of cars is the engine itself heats up. So the technology was, we were taking a heat from the engine, but now we are going from petrol car to electric vehicles, and in electric vehicles, that is the problem. So electric motors, they don't heat up as like a petrol. So what Tesla did recently, he put the electric heaters inside the car, but that electric heater, the power is coming from the battery. So electric heaters, they are draining the battery almost 30 to 40%. So that is one of the critical problem. All these new Hyundai Motors, and then BMW, and then we are also talking to Mercedes-Benz. So these companies, they are having a problem with the batteries. So what we have done is, recently we have developed a radiant heating technology. So that is a very nice technology. Is we are just developing some kind of stickers, and that sticker will work as a heater. So we recently, just last couple of months before we got this grant, and we are working with the Hyundai Motors and Interflex. So these are the two companies, South Korean companies. We are developing in radiant electric heating systems for the electric cars, and this is going to be in the future. All future electric vehicles, they are going to have this facility. So yeah, this is all about the research we are doing at QUT. So we are trying to address this all different waste issues. We are developing a new kind of supercapacitors batteries. We are also focusing on this waste. So, and we are also trying to develop a new energy conversion and storage technologies. So we really need a knowledge leverage. So we really need a new wide strategies and policies to develop the clean energy massively, because our demands are increasing so high, and then energy requirements are too big. So yeah, these are my all funding partners. So these are the funding agencies from where I got a funding for my research, and these are all my collaborators all around the world. And yeah, this is my research group. So we have 2 postdocs working in my group. We have almost 6 PhD students, and we also have some industry fellows working in our team. If you are interested to learn more about our research, what is happening, if you have any questions, if you want to know something, if you want to try something in the future, please do not hesitate to visit my page on QUT's website. Okay. And yes, thank you very much for your attention. And I would be happy to take some questions if you have.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this amazing session. Me, myself, I'm perplexed at the moment to learn so much other than my regular curriculum. And it has been such an informative session, I believe, for every one of us in the meeting. So thank you for that. Special thank you to even Sahil Deshmukh for making this possible by being part of IETE and contacting you, sir. We are open to questions now. The participants can ask questions to sir. Yes, so we have a question in the chat box. So what are the maintenance requirements?
What is mean by maintenance means what kind of maintenance?
Participants can either unmute yourselves to ask the questions, or you can type complete questions in the chat box.
After installing the supercapacitors, okay, that's a very good question. Okay, supercapacitors. So most of the supercapacitors, they are made of very cheap materials, and then the other thing with the supercapacitors is which is great is the stability. The stability of the supercapacitors is very high. For example, if we want to have these lithium-ion batteries, so the batteries discharge. So batteries, we can use 1 or 2 years maximum, or maximum 3 years we can use the batteries. But supercapacitors can be used at least for 10 to 15 years because they can be the charge and discharge for millions of cycles. So the maintenance is pretty low. It's very low, and very importantly, they can be recyclable. We are also working on we are also trying to recycle the supercapacitors. So we got some dead supercapacitors. So what we did is we opened them, and then we collected the material and we built a new supercapacitors, and we found that they are also performing like before. So it's great. Yes, the question is, when we talk about recharge capabilities of supercapacitor, what are the factors that would limit? The only limiting factor for supercapacitors is their energy density. So energy density is poor, like it can't store a very large amount of energy. But the other benefit of supercapacitor is there is no overcharge problem. So for example, if we keep charging the supercapacitor, it will reach to the extreme and then nothing will happen. But if we see batteries always have the overcharge problem. So battery can, if we keep charging the battery, it can burst. Of course, not nowadays, because nowadays they are making some safety circuits, so it prevents that. But that is the problem with the batteries. But supercapacitor doesn't have the problem, at least for now.
So me myself has a question, sir. You just talked about graphene being an amazing material that was discovered recently, and I also read about it a little bit past years. And I had a question that why is not graphene still available in the market? I believe it was predicted that it would be readily available by 2020 in maybe majority of electronics. Is the research still going on, or are there drawbacks for using graphene?
Okay, there are two main problems with the graphene. Graphene, the scaling up is the problem. Scaling up of graphene, high quality graphene scale up is problem. So whatever the techniques we are using to develop to synthesize the graphene, there are actually two possible techniques by which we prepare a graphene. Is a chemical method, and there is another which is a physical method, or I would say a chemical vapor deposition technique. So we can't prepare a graphene in kilos. There are some companies, they are developing a graphene in the kilos, but that graphene is a very low quality. What is mean by low quality graphene is, so if we want to extract a very high or very large, great properties of graphene, the graphene has to be single layer, or maybe 2 layer, or maximum 3 layers. Because if we increase the number of layers, it turns into the graphite. It's no more a graphene. So that is the problem. So we can't develop, we still don't have the methods by which we can develop a large amount of single layer graphene. So most of these transistor or this kind of sophisticated electronic components, they need a really very high quality graphene. On the other hand, for supercapacitors, for batteries, that is not the condition. If the graphene is not really of very high quality, not a single layer, that's not a problem. We can still use into the batteries and capacitors. We have one company here, Zero Emission Development. So they are making a graphene supercapacitors. We also have a local industry with whom I'm working. It's a graphene manufacturing group. So they are developing a graphene, but again, that is not really very high quality graphene. But they are using that graphene in various applications. There is one company in Bangalore recently started, in India. So they are also developing a graphene at a large scale. But again, the quality is the problem. So if we want to use that at a very sophisticated physics kind of experiment or applications, we need very high quality graphene. Yeah, there is one question. Can supercapacitor be paired with other batteries or kind of batteries? Yes, that's very good question. Yes. Currently, there are Toyota and then other kind of, there are other vehicles. So what they are trying to do is they are pairing supercapacitors and batteries together. So that is what they call as a hybrid combination. There is a reason. The technology they call as a regenerative braking system. What is mean by regenerative braking is, for example, we have a vehicle, and when we press a brake, so we can convert that kinetic energy into the electrical energy. But the problem is that time, the time for which that energy generated, that is not enough to recharge the batteries, because batteries take a very long time to charge, right? So that is the reason what people are doing, they are using supercapacitors which can be charged very fast, and very fast they can convert the kinetic energy into the electrical energy, and then the supercapacitors are used to charge the batteries. So in the regenerative braking systems, there is already people are using supercapacitor and battery hybrid combination. You can search it, regenerative braking systems.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So then would the capacity of supercapacitor decreases over time if there isn't any overcharging happening? Okay. Yes. Any kind of energy storage system, they will start to lose their charge storing capacity after the number of cycles. In batteries, material degrade very fast. In supercapacitors, materials degrade slow. So therefore, supercapacitors can do millions of charge discharge cycles, and battery can do 5,000 to the 10,000 charge discharge cycles. And after that, battery is dead. We have seen how many kinds of waste products are used to make the battery elements, but do these have any environmental impact? Actually, no. The reason I'm saying no is we are using pyrolysis technique to convert waste into a carbon materials, and we are doing this process into a tube in presence of inert atmosphere. So we use argon or nitrogen gas. For example, if we do the same process in presence of oxygen, then we are going to generate a large amount of carbon dioxide. But we do a process in the absence of oxygen, so there is very less possibility to generate any kind of toxic gases. So at the end, we convert 100%, and that's what I was pointing out. We convert 100% material into 100% carbon materials, and that goes into the batteries. Carbon is inert, so it's not really environmental damage, so it will not a problem for environment. And the batteries made from the carbon, they can be recycled. So as far as what we are working on, we don't feel that there is an environmental problem of making any batteries out of waste. Are there any chances of explosion if it is overcharged? Is this question for supercapacitor or battery? If it is for supercapacitor, no. For battery, yes. There is a chance that battery can overcharge and explode. But nowadays they have this electronic circuit. So what happened is, like, in general, we never discharge battery completely. They call it there is a term we use, state of charge. So we charge battery from that state of charge to 100%, and we discharge a battery from 100% to the state of charge. We never discharge battery to zero. So we are in that safety limit. So there is very less chance to explode a battery.
A small request to the participants: there's a feedback link given in the chat. Please fill up the form so we can get feedback about this session and plan on future sessions also. Also, I would request everyone to please switch on your cameras so we can take a screenshot of this meeting. Everybody, please switch on the cameras.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Sir, I think you have skipped a question in the chat box. So it
Okay.
is we have seen how many kinds of waste products are used to make battery elements, but do these have any environmental impacts?
I respond that
Oh,
question
sorry.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
If people have any more questions, they can either unmute or send it them in the chat box.
Okay, it seems nobody have more questions. If you have any questions, if more questions, maybe you can just email me anytime. And if you need more information for higher studies, maybe you can just send me any ping. Don't
Yes,
hesitate.
sure, sir. Again, I would like to thank you and the whole team for making this possible. On behalf of IIT and KJSIEIT Institute of Engineering and Information Technology, I would like to thank you for attending session and also giving us a wonderful and informative insights about supercapacitors and storage of energy. Thank you, sir.
Okay, no worries. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Okay, thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Bye. Bye.
A reminder to all participants, please do not forget to fill the feedback form.